Moving on to our next question. Bill, we will start with you. Do you support the formation of an affordable spay or neuter program to address the overpopulation of cats and dogs?
I think that's a responsibility of the owners. And, one of the things that I'm really watching as this debate unfolds is that the request for more government involvement. And, more government involvement means more money that we have to pay out. And I'm a firm believer, if you have a dog, if you have a cat, it's your responsibility. And so we have a bylaw officer, and we have bylaws that we will enforce. And I think it's up to the public to be responsible for, new members of their family, okay? And anyway, we work with the SPCA, and, that's one, we can pass $2 million motions and have nobody in council for that. But start talking about dogs and cats, and you'll be there for 5 to 6 hours. So certainly something that I think that we'll work with the SPCA on. But to me, I'm a firm believer that if you have a pet, you're responsible for that pet.
Kelty, do you support the formation of an affordable spay-neuter program to address the overpopulation?
I think we don't necessarily have to create something new so much as partner with and support things that exist already. There's opportunities with the AC. We have a wonderful vet tech program where a big part of their teaching and learning is doing surgeries on cats and dogs that are spays and neuters for the SPCA. So making sure that that continues to be available. There's communities that we've lived in where you're incentivized to spay and neuter your animal because you get a discount on your pet registration, on your dog registration if you have a spayed or neutered dog as opposed to one that's intact. So I think that there are ways that you can partner with the agencies that are there. It's not certainly a responsibility of the town, but there are ways that the town can certainly act to support that so that we're not incurring the costs of dealing with the overpopulation and dealing with the feral cats and dealing with dogs that are roaming the streets and that sort of thing.
Thank you. Our next question. Are there changes, Kelty, that you would like to see made to enhance public safety in the town of Truro?
I would say one of the things that I think would really enhance public safety in the town of Truro is finding some ways that really engage youth who at this point feel marginalized and have kind of drifted into the drug culture and drifted into some of those cultures where violence occurs and where in order to support a habit there tends to be more crime, those sorts of things. I think the more that we can do to really support and engage our youth, the less we'll have to spend on enforcing the law after the fact. I think it's really important that we provide opportunities and spaces for our young people to do the things that they like. We could say, wow, this sounds like a really great idea, but they're going to roll their eyes and say, yeah, whatever. So we need to engage our youth. We need to get a youth advisory group that really involves some of those students who are getting in trouble with the police on a regular basis. Get them engaged in a youth council so that they can tell us what is it that they need in the town. What is it that would engage them and keep them focused on some things that are a lot more positive?
Thank you. Bill, what are some changes you would like to see?
Well, we've done a lot of changes. You look at a $250,000 skate park. That's no small potatoes, and it's probably one of the best used facilities in our area. Mm-hmm. And that what came out of consultation with youth. We had our youth advisory committee, and one of the things that was the toughest, and I agree with Kelty, to get the young people involved who perhaps are not involved in anything, but it's hard to get people interested in a youth advisory committee. And I found the kids that we did have, their biggest problem was they were involved in so many things already: basketball, volleyball, soccer, student council, the list goes on. So for them to squeeze one more thing in, it was just very, very difficult. And then the other problem we found was that we started to get younger members, like grade 7, 8s, and 9s, and basically gave them a $5,000 budget to do and act upon things that they wanted to see. And it worked fairly good, but again, what happens by the time they get comfortable with the process, they move on to another grade and other things. And I think from my experience, the biggest problem with that, you're dealing with the town of Truro population, 14,000 people, and to get the youth involved with it is a tough tough call. A lot of competition out there for the allegiances to young people today. But certainly, I think we've more than made an effort to accommodate them.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
We have just passed a resolution to build mini tennis courts at Victoria Park.
This will be our final question before our closing statements. And Bill, we'll start with you. Many of the residents of East Truro are cut off from emergency services when trains are going through, in some cases for several minutes at a time. As mayor, would you pressure CN and the federal government to create some type of access around these tracks?
We have had a lot of contact with CN. I met with the vice president of CN and chief of legal affairs in Saskatoon this past June. We talked about these very issues. There's a lot of issues with CN. And if the deep-water container port in Halifax secures more container business, it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. One of the things that we did do was do a costing of what it would cost to move the tracks around Truro, and certainly you're talking in millions of dollars. And basically, I don't think CN is interested. That doesn't mean we won't be discussing it with them. When it was raised at a public meeting of council a few years ago, council was concerned that we would be taking traffic away from the downtown. I couldn't figure that one out, but nevertheless, that's some of the thinking that goes around. I get disadvantaged by train traffic as much as anyone else, but when people say we have a traffic problem in Truro, compared to what? Compared to Toronto, compared to Chicago, Montreal, there's nowhere near. We get disenfranchised twice a day, perhaps for 15 to 20 minutes. Anyway, it's not as simple as just saying we'll do it. CN is a major corporation, and certainly on the radar screen, Truro, Nova Scotia is a blip. And, so we will work toward that end. But, we've had a lot of discussions with them, with John Ross and Sons, for example, and they're a tough outfit to deal with. So, but getting better.
Okay, thank you. And Kelty, as mayor, would you pressure CN and the federal government to create some type of access around the train tracks?
I think there's definitely options for access around the train tracks that would require involvement of entities other than Truro, just because they are so expensive. But I think there's probably some other creative solutions as well. Perhaps there's some better communication systems so that the dispatch center can have a better understanding of exactly where trains are and when they're going to be at a certain point, and perhaps redirect if an emergency vehicle is trying to get to a particular point, tell them to go down a street, up a street, whatever. I think that there's ways of perhaps communicating around. Now, that's not going to solve our problem, which is we come down the hill, and it always happens when we're in a hurry that we end up hitting that train. But it makes us pause and think and take a breath. So it's not that bad. But with the emergency services, it is important to make sure that we've got some clear communication. And so I think there might be some creative ways of resolving that problem without going to the expense of moving tracks or creating bridges.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to the closing statements, and since Kelty began with the opening statements, Bill will begin with the closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Mandy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to come here to talk about municipal politics, and in particular the race for Mayor of Truro, Nova Scotia. I've been doing this job for about 15 years, been in municipal politics for 25. Certainly enjoy it. It's a challenge. It's a challenge not just for myself, but for anybody who goes into public service today. The demands are high, and the sources of income are low. We can't keep going back to the taxpayer's pocket. As mentioned a few times in this debate, we have to have other new revenue streams. We're working toward that end. It's one of those things when you're involved with it. There's lots of things we can do. It's just a matter of being able to match the finances with the priorities, and we do have priority list, and a lot of it is with our core values for what we do. It's fire protection, police protection, and public works, water, these type of things. And then you have recreation that's added into it. The town has invested money in the Marigold Center, which covers culture. We feel very strongly that. We've been a major supporter of the Marigold Center since day one. We are open for discussion. And one of the things that we want to do, and particularly I like to do is talk to people, and if there's a way that we can do what they're requesting us to do, we'll make every effort to do that. We have done that. I think the record shows that that's the case, and certainly it has been a challenge, but we've had a lot of success with it. Truro is an amazing town, has a great future, and we're well known across the country. And people in Halifax often say to me, good things are happening in Truro, Nova Scotia. They just didn't happen by themselves. They had to have somebody who was at least in a chair to push forward with the plan. And that's what we're doing, and that's what I continue to do on October 21st.
Okay, thank you. Bill, Kelty, your closing statement.
All right. So we've heard a lot about the last 15 years and a lot about experience and things that have happened. And many of the issues we've discussed, and some that we haven't, such as flooding, which I'm sure was in the box somewhere, but we just didn't get to it. They're not new. They've been around. There's been lots of studies, lots of discussions, but there hasn't been some critical action that we've needed in the town. What we need in Truro right now, it's a critical point for Nova Scotia. We have changing demographics. We have some really interesting new opportunities in Nova Scotia. And we need leadership that is going to be willing to embrace those opportunities and to really bring us forward. We need to be able to develop strong partnerships with our other government agencies to really reinforce what we're doing with them and to make sure that we're leveraging all of our resources. We can't do some of these things by ourselves. As we've discussed today, things are very expensive, and we don't want to put it all on the backs of the people of Truro, particularly when people from all over the region come to Truro and use our resources. This is the modern era. This is the time when people expect to be able to participate instantaneously. And our government needs to catch up to that. We need to have open and accessible government that's built on public service and service to the community and openness, and not on politics and closed networks of who knows who. I believe that I have the experience and the skills to bring us forward and to make some of these tough decisions and to move things forward, make changes in Truro that make us the kind of community that people really want to live in. Bill may be hearing from people in Halifax that wonderful things are happening here. What we've heard is, why are you living in Truro? Why don't you live in Halifax and commute down there? And I can't believe it when I hear that, because this really is a wonderful place. We need to have leadership that will change our reputation and make us one of the most sought-after towns in Nova Scotia. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I appreciate all of this. If anybody would like to have more information about me or continue the conversation, you can find me at www.keltyformayor.ca. And don't forget to vote October 11th through the 20th, online or by phone.
So thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight, and hopefully you heard the issue that was most important to you addressed during the questions. I would like to remind you that the mayor's race isn't the only race happening in the town of Truro, as all wards are being contested. Please remember to cast your ballot whether you're in the town of Truro, county of Colchester, town of Stewiacke, or elsewhere. It is critically important that you exercise your right to vote for our leaders, whether it be mayor, councillors, MLA, MP, and so on. A recording of this debate will be posted on the Chamber's website at trurochamber.com within the next couple of days, in case you weren't able to watch it tonight or you would like to watch it again. Thanks, and have a great evening, everyone.